親父が5年前にここでこんなことをしなければ、お前の姉ちゃんが全て何とかしてくれるはずだったんだろう。親父が巨人の力をあるべきところから盗んだせいで、一体どれだけ人が死んだ。
Eren may not have known at the time, but in killing Frieda, Grisha saved humanity from destruction. Karl Fritz, the first king of the walls, believed the Eldians must atone for their sins, and his vow forbade anyone of royal blood from using the power of titans against the world. Generations of kings helplessly watched as Marley enslaved Eldians and used them as cannon fodder for their conquests. Frieda was no different. Even as the walls were destroyed, even as Titans slaughtered the citizens of Walmeria, all she did was watch. Grisha pleaded with her, invoking the image of his dead wife and children, explaining that dying in ignorance was not atonement, but his efforts failed. Frieda dismissed his concerns and told him Eldians must accept the world's hatred and sacrifice themselves for peace. Grisha realized Eldia would never be saved, with Frieda wielding the founding titan, and with a push from Eren, he stole the titan for himself. The tragedy is, none of this was Frieda's desire. She wanted the best for her people, she wanted to save everyone, but could not resist the king's vow, and for that she was killed. But what if she wasn't? What if Grisha does not kill her? What does Frieda do with the defeated Grisha? What becomes of Eren without the founding titan? Does Historia survive? And can the warriors complete their mission? I am your host, the Nen Hunter, and today we will dive into how Attack on Titan changes if Frieda survives. Before we begin, we must explain how the King's Vow works, as everything in this What If centers on it. Karl Fritz's vow affects those of royal blood and prevents them from using the Founder against the world. It works by Karl sending his memories and will through the paths and possessing the user. The strength of Karl's will restricts the person from attacking Marley, and his memories cause the user to lose themselves and take on his ideology. Uri is the best example. He never attempted to fight the Titans, and he would speak about the walls as if he was Karl Fritz. Frieda is not fully possessed. According to Historia, Frieda had two personalities, one that was her sister, and another that would preach about humanity being sinners. We know the latter is Karl Fritz, and this What If will be defined by Frieda's internal struggle against Karl to maintain her independence and do what she feels is right. Grisha collapses to the floor, dropping his knife and repeating how doctors don't kill children. Rod shouts at Frieda to kill Grisha, but is ignored. Frieda knows Grisha is a threat, but she can't bring herself to kill a defenseless man, and she can't ignore the feeling that her weakness is why he suffered beyond the walls. But is the guilt coming from her or from the spirits possessing her? She does not know the answer. Suddenly, Frieda feels her ancestors taking control. She begins walking to Grisha and extends her hand to him. The defeated Grisha accepts and rises to his feet. Frieda bows her head and begins apologizing. The immense suffering of Eldians beyond this island was because of my own weakness. I could not continue the horrors of the Eldian Empire or trust my successors to make the same decision. And for that, the people I left behind experienced true hell. But this hell was created by the power of Titans, and accepting the world's hatred is the only way to end the cycle. So please, cleanse your heart of rage, and live in peace within this paradise. Frieda offers Grisha and his family sanctuary within Walsina. Grisha is at the lowest point he's been at since his comrades were executed. He does not care what happens now, so he meekly accepts her proposal. Rod is skeptical, but he remembers when Uri befriended his would-be killer, and he believes something similar is happening here. Eventually, Frieda retakes control. She knows about the agreement and plans to honor it. She will house Grisha and his family near the Reiss estate. Despite her desires to help him, letting Grisha roam freely is dangerous, and this will allow her to monitor his movements. In a refugee camp located in Walrose, Eren and Mikasa are looking around, trying to find Grisha amongst the crowd. Suddenly, MPs enter the camp and call for Eren and Mikasa, informing them they'll be moved to Walsina. Eren refuses and insists he won't leave his father behind, so soldiers drag him out by force. During the struggle, Mikasa realizes Armin will be left behind and begins resisting as well. Frustrated, the soldiers decide to knock out Eren and Mikasa. Hours pass, and the pair are woken up by Grisha. They're in the Orwood district of Walsina. Eren and Mikasa are relieved he's still alive, and they tearfully recount everything that happened, including Carla's death and Armin being left behind. Grisha promises Eren and Mikasa that they'll create a new life together, but deep down he knows that's not true. His 13 years are up, he can't be there for them. That night, after Eren and Mikasa go to sleep, Grisha begins cursing his own weakness. He's failed at everything. Carla is dead. Eren and Mikasa will be orphans, and he's failed the mission. Grisha steps outside to clear his mind and plan his next move. While brooding, he's greeted by Frieda. Grisha is apprehensive, but Frieda assures him she just wants to talk. Frieda asks him to explain the world beyond the walls. Grisha details his life in Marley, the state Eldians are kept in, Marley's wars of conquest, and the warrior program. He's hoping these stories will persuade her. Frieda is unsurprised. She remembers her ancestor coordinating with the Tiber family to end the Eldian Empire, and later withdrawing to Paradis, leaving the Eldians to their fate. Whenever the thought of helping them crossed her mind, her ancestors would take over and stop her. What Frieda wants to know is what is it about Grisha that bothers her so much. She can't tell if she feels anger or guilt. Grisha notices Frieda struggling. He believes the story is working, and he passionately explains why the Eldians must take up arms against Marley and restore Eldia. Suddenly, all Grisha sees is blood, carnage, and destruction. The images of titans butchering defenseless villagers is seared into his mind before he's returned to reality. Grisha had fallen down during the ordeal, and looking down on him was Frieda, now possessed by Karl Fritz. As Grisha gets up, Frieda lectures him on the brutality of Eldia and why they must atone for it. Grisha is furious now. He shouts back that Marley commits the same atrocities every day, and something much worse happened in Walmeria, and all she did was watch. Now, Grisha is hit with images of the Colossals marching and flattening the world, while Frieda's voice echoes, telling him she can end Marley in an instant, but the cycle would continue. Eventually, one side has to stand down. Grisha is brought to reality, and he's lying down in a field by himself. Frieda, or rather Karl Fritz's relationship with Grisha, is complicated, but the premise is the same as Uri's relationship with Kenny. Karl knows the suffering Eldians are enduring beyond the walls is his fault, but he's isolated himself from it by wiping everyone's memories and surrounding himself with people who glorify him as a god. He can preach endlessly about peace and forgiveness because he's killed or erased the memories of anyone who disagreed with him. But Grisha's life story is an indictment on Karl's ideology. How can he preach about peace when he's turned Grisha's life into hell? A similar dynamic occurred when Uri met Kenny, someone whose entire clan was nearly eradicated by Karl's ideology. The only difference is Uri could end the persecution of Ackermans and make peace with Kenny, but Frieda can't do the same with Grisha. Hence why Karl is so determined to persuade Grisha. He wants to prove to him and to himself that withdrawing from the wars was the correct decision. This manifests in Frieda's obsession with Grisha. Personally, she believes he's a threat to her and her family, yet she feels obligated to make amends with him. Frieda and Grisha would have many debates just like the previous one, and during one of them, Grisha learns Frieda plans on wiping humanity's memories, and he finally makes his decision. That night, he drags Eren into a secluded forest, and as he injects him with the Titan Serum, he begs Eren to kill Frieda if he wants to save everyone. Unbeknownst to Grisha, Frieda watches the ritual in silence, and once it's complete, she brings Eren back to his house. She is shocked by how far Grisha would go to oppose her, but still, she uses her scream to wipe everyone's memories. Reiner, Bertholdt, and Ani are jolted awake. Believing the founders on the move, they prepare to fight. But the night is silent, and only when morning comes and the townspeople awake do they realize what happened. It's an encouraging sign. The founder knows they're here, but refuses to fight. But if destroying the wall didn't make it reveal itself, what will? Levi attends a meeting with the other squad captains and Erwin. With Walmeria destroyed and refugees flooding Walrose, the government is pushing them to launch an expedition to liberate Shiganshina, but deep down he knows it's a way to cull the population. He's hoping Erwin has formulated a strategy to leverage the manpower against the Titans, but something is wrong. Erwin begins discussing plans to explore unknown territory beyond Walrose. Levi watches as, one by one, every captain, including their assistants, pretend Walmeria doesn't exist. Levi shouts at them to stop joking about the thousands who died in Walmeria. The room goes silent. Hanji cracks a joke to change the topic, but Levi steers the conversation back to Walmeria. And finally, Erwin breaks the news to Levi that Walmeria never existed. A back and forth begins, and it culminates with Levi dismissing himself out of frustration. Unbeknownst to Levi, his outburst filtered back to Walsina, and plans are made to silence him. The warriors meet to discuss their next move. Reiner is satisfied with destroying Walmeria and wishes to infiltrate the government covertly, but Ani resents it. Willie Tiber's intel was correct. The founding titan can't fight back, so why not destroy Walrose and begin the investigation immediately versus joining the military police in 5 years? Reiner is more cautious. Destroying the first wall was already a massive risk. Why push their luck and risk the entire world getting destroyed? Secretly, Reiner is still struggling with Marcel's death and the revelation Marcel sacrificed him or Porco, but Ani's adamant about finishing the mission and returning to her father, and after many arguments, a compromise is reached. They will spend a few weeks investigating the extent of the Founder's response, and if it's just a memory wipe, they'll destroy Walrose. Back in Walsina, Eren finally wakes up and notices a key wrapped around his neck. He's been asleep for 3 days. He vaguely remembers Grisha bringing him to the forest. He darts out of bed to look for him, but finds Mikasa sitting alone, clearly terrified. Mikasa notices Eren and begins to greet him before stopping herself. Eren assumes she's still shaken up about Walmeria. He assures her that he'll avenge their mother and everyone who died in Shiganshina. Mikasa's eyes light up. She begins questioning Eren about Walmeria and is relieved he remembers. She tells Eren that Grisha has gone missing and everyone outside has forgotten Walmeria. Eren doesn't believe her. He can't accept Grisha disappearing or people forgetting the Colossal Titan. And for the next few weeks, Eren shouts at anyone who'd listen that Walmeria must be liberated, and Mikasa would shut him up before people got suspicious. The duo frantically search for any traces of Grisha before coming to the realization they're all alone. With the Grisha dead, Frieda takes responsibility for Eren and Mikasa. She hires servants to take care of them and visits them when she gets the chance. Right now, only the Reiss family knows Eren is a Titan shifter. Rod advocates for Ulkin, Frieda's brother, to take Eren's Titan, but Frieda doesn't want a child to be killed for the ritual. She still views Eren as a potential threat, as what would happen if he unlocks Grisha's memories, or if the royal government learns he's a Titan shifter. Eren's goals of wiping out the Titans, and his belief that only cowards hide behind the walls, clash heavily with Frieda's, or rather Karl's philosophy of peace and forgiveness. Eren completely rejects Frieda's preachings, and states that he'll join the Survey Corps and save everyone. Eren's words remind Frieda of herself before inheriting the Founding Titan, and she wonders if Eren had royal blood. Could he resist Karl Fritz's will? Despite being a quiet person, Mikasa quickly becomes a headache for Frieda. During a conversation, Mikasa casually mentions her last name is Ackerman, which reveals that 1, she's unaffected by the memory wipe, and 2, that she doesn't know the implications of her last name. The Ackermans have become one of the main hurdles to stabilizing the walls, so Mikasa telling people her last name puts her in danger. Frieda has to warn Mikasa about it, and has to monitor her movements, just like Eren. An amusing dynamic between Frieda, Eren, and Mikasa is, Frieda knows Eren and Mikasa remember Walmeria, yet has to play along whenever they act like Walmeria doesn't exist, to avoid drawing suspicion to herself. Levi can't get any sleep. No matter where he goes, it's as if Walmeria never existed. What does that mean for his comrades, who sacrificed their hearts and were forgotten? Levi wonders if he's the one going crazy, and everything since this moment was a feverish dream. To get his mind off things, Levi does the one thing that's never failed him. He cleans. As he's cleaning, he hears it. The sound of ODM gear. Then the windows shatter, and soldiers enter. Levi immediately recognizes them as the military police. He also hears footsteps downstairs. He realizes he's surrounded, but they haven't noticed him yet. Levi's best bet is either sneaking out, or stealing a soldier's ODM gear, and fighting his way out. Levi picks the former. Since the government is now hunting him, his only chance of survival is staying hidden until he reaches the underground city. Levi manages to slip past the MPs and makes it outside, only to be greeted by Kenny. Kenny taught Levi everything he knows, and according to Levi, they both think the same way. Kenny used that, and left an escape route open, knowing Levi would take it. Levi gets surrounded by MPs, and after a struggle is arrested. He'll be taken to the capital to stand trial. Kenny watched the struggle in silence before leaving. He laments on how familiar that sight was. Right now, Ackermans are being hunted because the memory wipe did not affect them. The government believes Kenny used to murder MPs as vengeance for how Ackermans were treated, meaning right now, he's also a target. Kenny only captured Levi to regain their trust, but he has every intention of betraying them. Kenny has never cared about the Ackerman. In the past, he only believed the government hated them, so he had an excuse to murder MPs. Now, he wants to steal the founding titan. He's hesitant to kill Uri's reincarnate, but since Frieda has now broken Uri's promise to protect Ackermans, he has an excuse to kill her. The following morning, the newspapers report that Levi, the infamous killer of the walls, was brought to justice. Frieda's memory alterations are why Levi is now despised. After wiping humanity's memories, she coordinated with the government to stabilize the walls and eliminate threats. Frieda made people forget about loved ones and calmed the population amidst food shortages and anarchy. The government assassinated influential nobles from Walmeria, removed anything that symbolized Walmeria, and launched a suicide expedition to cull the number of refugees. Levi is brought out to the town square and is executed. The crowd cheers for humanity's worst criminal being brought to justice. Eren is in the crowd and is horrified that humanity's greatest soldier was killed. Somehow, he manages to resist the urge to publicly defend Levi. Ani is also watching. The fact that the founder would kill Paradis' best soldier just to maintain the peace proves the king's vow can't be broken. She reports back what she saw to Reiner and Berthold, and the decision is made. The months after wiping humanity's memories had Frieda working day and night to stabilize the walls. Now that the job is complete, she visits the Orva district to check on Historia. She hasn't seen her sister in months. Frieda arrives at the farm, but she finds it deserted. She speaks to the villagers and learns Historia and Alma vanished a few weeks after the walls fell. Frieda understands this was an assassination, but by who and why? Her mind races to various explanations and their implication, but the only one that makes sense is someone learned Historia was Rod's daughter and assassinated her. But Historia's origin was a closely guarded secret. If the killer uncovered it, what else do they know? Frieda rushes to Eren and Mikasa, believing they are the next targets. To her surprise, they are just fine, but then why was Historia killed? Was it a coincidence? Was it meant as a threat to her family? In that whirlwind of thoughts, the gravity of the situation finally sets in. Historia, her sister, was killed. Frieda collapses to the floor and begins sobbing uncontrollably. Eren and Mikasa try to comfort her, but they can't help her. Frieda is having a complete mental breakdown in front of them. From killing her uncle, to watching Walmeria fall, hearing Grisha's story, and now her sister dying. All of it caused by her ancestor's ghost. Yet even now, she feels helpless against them, like she's a prisoner in her own body. The doors fly open. Nick stumbles through, shouting that Wall Rose was destroyed. Eren's face fills with rage. The Titans have returned. They've destroyed another wall, and now Armin is dead. He swears that he'll avenge everyone, and destroy every last one. Eren's outburst is interrupted by Frieda. Still teary-eyed and while laughing, she rises to her feet and declares Wall Rose's destruction to be divine retribution for everyone's sins. Nick bows down and begins praying for forgiveness, but Eren remains standing, still glaring at Frieda. He's heard these exact words before, but from where? That moment of confusion is replaced with pure anger. Eren shouts at Frieda, demanding to know for what crimes his mother and everyone in Shiganshina died for. Frieda is silent for a moment. She's also heard these words. She recalls her conversations with Grisha and him begging her to save everyone. Then, the memories of herself just before obtaining the Founding Titan, promising Rod that she won't lose to her ancestor's ghost and that she will save everyone. Frieda begins grabbing her own head and visibly struggling with herself. She slowly walks to the door, and as she walks past Eren, she tells him that all of them were innocent before she leaves the house. Frieda breaks into a sprint. She wants to get away from it all. How could it have gone so wrong? She promised her father that she'd conquer their ancestor's ghost. Yet here she is, watching helplessly as thousands die. She remembers Historia and feels the tears returning, but she refuses to give in. Frieda vows to break the curse and save everyone. Back in the house, Nick concludes his prayer, and he briefly stares at Eren suspiciously before leaving. Eren doesn't notice Nick's stare and begins packing his stuff. He tells Mikasa if Armin survived, he'd be in the refugee camp. They should wait for him there, however long it takes.